Good morning everybody and welcome back to another War Thunder video, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Leopard 2A4 for my first impressions video. Finally I've gotten around to it. I know it's taken me a very long time, I'm sorry for that. This last week I had my grandmother over and honestly she doesn't like technology, so I couldn't. She's one of these control freaks, okay? In my home I wasn't allowed to do what I want. That basically sums up my experience from the past week. Luckily, I was allowed to actually play them on the PS4 occasionally, not nowhere near as much as I could, and I certainly couldn't upload videos because she's one of these people that constantly tries to talk to you about random shit. She once started a discussion, or tried to start a discussion, I completely fucking ignored her, about the drain pipes from the houses across the street. Yes, seriously. So yes, with her doing my absolute head in, I have finally managed to get rid of her, by which I mean she's gone home, and I'm finally able to do this video. Hurrah! I'm very happy. Thankfully, in the past week when she has been here, and I have been able to play War Thunder a little bit, I managed to get this footage so that I could do the video. And on top of that, I've also been playing the French. I actually haven't got the B2 Breno, or the just the B2 even, but I have been researching the MX40. The only reason this video is coming out probably around 3 o'clock by the time I'm finishing uploaded and what have you done this, is because all this morning I've been playing my XM1 to earn the 1.3 million lions I need to buy and crew my MX40, which I have finally managed to unlock. The beardy really does take his chances, doesn't he? I imagine you can hear him in the background. Ignore him, I do exactly the same. Anyway, yes, I've finally managed to get my MX40, which I'm very much looking forward to giving a go. Hopefully I'll be able to do so after I've uploaded this video. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the 2A4, which after all is why we are here. So let's crack on. Now, quick disclaimer with this first impressions video, which is what this is going to be labelled in the title, before we crack on, because there are several people on Reddit who seem to think it's quite funny to moan about the fact that I call my first impressions review videos reviews for the most part. Generally speaking, I unlock the FPEs and the repair kit for every vehicle. That usually gives me enough time to get to know the vehicle whilst I'm doing so, in order to do a first impressions video, well, to do a review video then. Which, in my review videos, I look at the armour statistics, I look at the modifications, I look at the stat sheet, I look at the armour itself, and I then put up some footage of the gameplay and discuss how the tank plays and whether I think you shouldn't get it, etc, etc, etc. That is my review videos. My first impressions videos are like this, just gameplay footage with me talking over the background. Yet for some reason my review videos are not good enough for them, and they insist I should research basically every modification on the tank before I do a review. Though I can see the point in that, I do not think it's viable, especially for somebody like me who doesn't have all the time in the world to sit around playing this game as much as I'd love to. I cannot do it as a job. I will have a job that I'll have to go to at some stage, which should be starting hopefully next week, I imagine, but I'll go over that in a minute, just keep you all up to date. Yeah, basically it's one of these situations where I haven't got the time to do it, so I do as best as I can. I think the 20/30 matches, depending on how well I do, is more than enough to get a grasp of how the tank should play. I imagine you guys, being my subscribers, will agree. I'm not saying you should agree just because you're subscribed, but you see where I'm going with this. You like my top content, you obviously don't have an issue with it for the most part. If you do, then by all means have an issue with it, I'm fine with that. Basically what this comes down to is constructive criticism. I had somebody comment on one of my review videos, basically calling me all the names under the sun because they thought I should have researched more modifications before calling it a review video. Of course, this is my channel, I do things my own way. I'm more than happy to listen to what you guys have to say, so long as you do it in a constructive manner. That guy did not, so I deleted his comment, and that's it really. I haven't heard from him since, thankfully, but we shall see, shall we? Now, as for a quick update on my job before we get onto the 2A4, I am not starting yet. I do not know when I will be starting, but it should be probably next week. Once I get my form back, I will email them, and then they'll go through the process of giving me my start date. Right, that's us all caught up. All of that, the last 5 minutes should have probably been saved for a channel update video, but I do apologise, I just want to get cracking on. So, let's get on with the 2A4, shall we? So, the 2A4 was basically introduced in the decades following the Leo A1 series of tanks. I think the A1, A5 was the most modern of which, and basically came into service to replace those tanks after the Leopard 2K project, the Leopard 2K project, which unfortunately didn't go anywhere. That in and of itself was a sort of an amalgamation of the Europanzer project, which also went nowhere, between the Americans and the Germans with their KPZ-70 and the MBT-70. The Leo 2A4 is more heavily armoured than its 2K in War Thunder, its cousin, I suppose you could call it, and is not as mobile. However, there is one thing that I think a lot of people neglect to mention, but I'm going to mention it anyway, is the fact that for some reason people don't realise how tall the 2K actually is, or at least they don't mention it. It is very tall for what it is. It's a main battle tank, remember, it's not a heavy tank from World War II, and it's taller than a Tiger II even, like quite substantially taller. And while this doesn't sound like an issue, I mean, you could be thinking, well, Red, the tank's lightly armoured, mobile, it doesn't have to get spotted. You're entirely correct, although unfortunately it being higher profile makes it easier to spot. The 2A4 is not as low profile as the T64s, but it doesn't have the same problem to the same degree that the 2K does. The mobility of the tank is what I would call respectable, considering it's a stock tank, at least during this gameplay footage. I haven't even got the parts or FPEs yet. Actually, no, that's a lie. I do have the parts, I don't have the FPEs yet. I don't have any engine modifications, transmission modifications, anything of the sort. So if you think the tank is reasonably mobile now, it will only get better from here on in, from what you're seeing here. Now for the armour. The front of the tank, the hull and the gun mantlet included are actually not bad at range. The upper frontal plate I have bounced off of a few times with my T64, although I don't know if that was due to the angling or whether it was just bad luck on my part. The lower plate, however, is definitely a weak spot on this tank. If at all possible, you should hide the lower front plate of your 2A4 in any engagement. If you're lying in ambush, hide the front of the hull behind some rubble or behind a building or behind anything basically. Even some bushes, soft cover, just to make it harder for the enemy to spot and hit your lower frontal plate at a glance. At the end of the day, if they come around the corner and you're sat there with your muzzle of your gun pointing in their direction, they're going to want to make a snapshot. Even bushes will slow them down during that process, and they're likely to miss entirely or hit you in a place where you're more heavily armoured and increase your chances of survival. The gun sight you can see here on the front left hand side of the turret is also a pretty big weak spot, especially at close range. The tank does get its heat FS round, its 650mm of penetration heat FS round as stock, and all in all, I've actually heard people saying this thing is better than the Abrams. I don't really want to comment on that because it might start a shitstorm, but you can believe what you will in that regard. So you'll be happy to hear, as I said, I managed to research the AMX-40 this week, and I've just bought and crewed it, which is why it took me so long to get this video out, so hopefully there'll be footage coming of that soon. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share and subscribe for more, and I'll see you all in the next War Thunder video. Cheers.